Hello and welcome to this blog training. In this training we are going to cover how to create a new blog post and how to assign it to one of our blog categories. Please note that these blog categories are not the same as our product categories. But before we get started, I just want to go through a couple of default settings that we can find in Stores, Settings, Configuration. And then we have Magento extensions and then blog. The first setting on the blog index page is the title, and this corresponds to the title that we see in the browser up here. Then we have meta keywords and meta description, and if these two settings are left empty, Magento is going to inherit them from the design part, the design section here, and then HTML head, and then default description and default keywords. Then we have under permalink settings, we have the blog route, which is also set to blog, and this corresponds to the blog URL key that we have here, that comes after the site URL. Then we have the permalink type, which I recommend to keep it as default. And this will then, if we look at a blog post, we can see that the second part of the URL is post for a blog post, and if we look at the blog category, we see that the second part of the URL is category. But if I would have this set to short, then the URL of a category would look like this, and the URL of a blog post would look like this. And if we have a URL key that is the same for a category and for a blog post, then we might run into problems. So that is why I recommend to keep this as default. Then we have a couple of more settings. These are self-explanatory, but if I go to post view, for example, we have related posts, and we can see that this is enabled, and we have 5. So this is the related post section in a blog post, and the related products are this one. Then we have also enabled comments, and these are the settings that I'm not going to cover. We also have sidebar and post list, but I'm not going to cover this in detail. Let's now instead jump into content, blogs and categories. And we are here going to see the categories that we have already created, which corresponds to these that we have here in the right column. So if we start with kitchen, which is this one, we see that we have a category title and a URL key. So this is the title and this is the URL key, and this one is enabled for all of our store views. And I have not selected a parent category, so this means that this is a level 1 blog category. The same goes for metadata. If I don't specify anything here, Magento is going to inherit them from the stores configuration section that I have mentioned earlier. If I look into phones, we can see that phones is a subcategory to electronics. So let's see how this category looks in the backend. And here we can see that this phones category has parent category set to electronics. Alright, so let's now go to content, blogs and posts, and this is where we have one of our first blog posts. So here we have the post title and the URL key. This corresponds to the title and the URL key over here. We have also assigned this to phones, and we don't need to assign this to the parent category. It is enough to only select phones. So if I go into phones here, we see the blog post, and if I go to the parent category, we can also see the same blog post. Then we have status, and we have the publish date. If I specify a date in the future, then I am not going to see the blog post until then. And the publish at is also displayed here. Then we have the content, where we have this description, and this of course corresponds to this. Metadata, again, if I leave this empty, we're going to inherit this from our default settings. And if we look at the related posts section, we can here relate to other similar articles. And this is where it goes on the front end. And then we have space for our related products. And these are found here. And to use this grid, the same goes for related posts. Simply use this drop-down and set this to any, and then search for your related products that you want to add. Tick the checkboxes like this, and then simply save the product. And that's it. Now you know how to set up new blog categories, how to set up new blog posts, and how to assign a blog post to a category. Thank you for watching, and see you again.